Hi everybody, welcome to the fourth session of the Content Exploration series here. We are at the Observatory at Britain Marketing and Design Group. We are also live streaming on YouTube, and I do believe we're about to go live on Facebook Live here in just a second or two. So, my name is Nick, born and raised in Sweden. I was going to make a joke about my Swedish heritage, but my social media manager here, Amanda, she did not approve, so we're going to go ahead and skip right through that. I am the resident content strategist here at Britain Marketing and Design Group. I am kind of a hopeful cynic. I am a father of 3 half-crazy kids, and I love content marketing. So we're at Britain Marketing and Design Group. We're a creative design agency that just celebrated 10 years here in March, so been around for a while. We specialize in lifestyle and consumer goods marketing. So today we're at the Observatory. We are going to talk about content creation and how to create structured, consistent, engaging, purposeful, and exceptional content. We hope that these sessions are informative, helpful, and that they're collaborative, and that at the end of the day you can take a couple of tips or tools and resources with you to adapt to your content marketing strategy. So we're in the Observatory here at Britain Marketing and Design Group. This is our content creation studio. It's our real-time listening and monitoring hub, our creative collaborative space. It's really our command center for digital communication and content creation. We also have the lab over here to my left, which you can't see, sorry about that, but that's where we test and create a lot of content. What we do is we lock our creatives in there, and we don't let them out until they have some form of shareable visual content like hyperlapse, Vine, any type of micro video or GIF or whatever it might be. So, some notes about notes. We love repurposing content. We love visual content here at Britain Marketing and Design Group. We love everything that we can repurpose. We do create a sketchpad or a notepad for these sessions that you can download. And for those of you here, you can use them to doodle away on here in the Observatory as well. This notepad can be downloaded from bmdg.us/sketch-pad4. So go ahead and grab that PDF and mark it up. It features our desktop calendar feature that we do. It's a design feature that we do on a monthly basis, where we task one of our creatives here and designers to create a desktop calendar, and we give it away for free on the blog. This month was May, and Danielle Hartman, our digital designer, rocked the house and created 3 really nice versions, 3 really nice desktop wallpapers. Good job, Danielle. So we want these sessions to be really interactive. If you will, please ask us any questions that you have at BritainMDG, or tag us on #GreatBritain. We'll also be monitoring our Facebook live stream as well for any comments. So please ask us questions. We like questions. Okay, so we're about to start talking about content creation here. The main thing that I want to kind of preface this whole session with is that content creation is hard. And I say that in kind of a fun, jokey format, but it really is hard to create content. And what we really want to get across is that if you have structured processes, efficient workflows, and so forth, it will enable you to create that content much easier, with much more consistency, faster, more scalable, and such. What content creation really means to us is it's that balance between function and form, between traditional mediums and digital mediums, because what we really create in here we want to make sure that everything that we create for ourselves, for Britain Marketing and Design Group, and for our clients, we want those pieces of content to have the optimal reach that it can get on whatever platform we share it on. So we take that function and form balance very, we take it to heart, because we really want to make sure that anytime we create something, we want to merge that that practicality with the beautiful form. So, and for us, being in digital, we know the importance of kind of leading with the function over form sometimes, and that's not something that a lot of creatives think about when you compare traditional mediums versus digital mediums. So, planning for successful content creation is all about creating consistent frameworks that uses your best resources, your tools, and your processes to in order for you to be successful. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how to create a messaging framework, the importance of content templates and checklists, our content creation process, different content types, native user experience and such versus automation, and how they kind of play into each other, and when you can do each one and when you should do each one. And then of course we'll finish up with some tools that you can hopefully find beneficial to you. First, I'll give you a little bit of a background on what we do here. Content Cartography is our content marketing formula that we have developed here. It's all about optimizing and to really be efficient around content aggregation, the editorial process, content creation, of course, which we're going to talk about today, and then content curation and the sharing of said content. What Content Cartography allows us to do, it lets us plan for and create engaging content that is channel agnostic, that adheres to native specific user experience while also being, hyper searchable. So it sounds complex, and it can be, but it does make sense as well. All right, so let's talk a little bit about messaging frameworks. We're really brand centered here at Britain, and we want to get as close to the brands that we work with as we can. It's difficult to create a messaging framework if you don't understand the brand voice. So we always start at the brand center when we consider creating a messaging framework. And the messaging framework is really our tool, our matrix for ensuring consistency and on brand when it comes to the messaging that we create. So we look at that voice and we slightly alter it, modify it perhaps, the tone of it depending on channels, depending on what medium we're using and so forth. And then we run it through kind of a matrix that we have that includes what's the content direction, what's the content focus, what's the goal of the content, and then we use a modified version of the event model as well. So those 4 pillars is the pillars. They are the backbone of our messaging frameworks. So the content direction really speaks to what you want to achieve with your content. What do you want to happen when you share that content? Do you want to engage your audience? Do you want to surprise them? Do you want to delight them? Whatever works for your brand and your voice is what that content direction should signify. And then we have our content focus, which is what types of content topics will you be sharing? Are they industry related? Is it strictly original content? Is it informational? Is it funny? Is it a mix of all of the above? So whatever your voice and your brand allows for, that's what we consider for the content focus part of it. And then we have our content goals, which really is more of the end objective of the content that you're sharing. So is the goal to create awareness of a product or a service or your brand? Is it about increasing your reach? Is it about selling something? so that's part of those content goals that you want your content to go through in that matrix. And then we use the vent model, which vents stands for is the content valuable, is it engaging, is it needed, is it true. So once you've created and decided what those different aspects are for your brand, what your brand voice allows for, you run it through a matrix and then you give it a score, and depending on that score, that is what your messaging is, and that's kind of setting your framework for what your messaging will be for your brand. And again, this all ensures that you will stay on brand, that you'll be a consistent, and so forth. So that is our messaging framework that we use here. One of the most fun things from a content strategy standpoint is to create support collateral for all of our different internal staff members and teams and everything that we have, and templates and checklists are a lot of fun because they allow you to be really consistent. It allows you to scale a little bit, and it also allows you to make sure that you create your content and that it's really effective whenever you do it. So so what we always look at when it comes to templates is we create templates that are channel specific. So what type of content and on what vehicle is it being shared on or created. So we look at websites, blog pages, social posts, emails, and so forth, and any other digital type platform that we do. And we get really granular with it, where we can have a checklist that has anywhere from 5 checkboxes to 20. It all depends on how complex that piece of content that you're creating is. So, but ultimately, what these checklists and these templates allow you to do is it allows you to harness best practices to ensure the best user experience on that specific channel. They really help us create the best content that we can, and it really allows for us to really target both humans and the readability aspect of content, depending on what channel it is, and it also allows us to target those those pesky bots and search engines and ranking factors and so forth. So for websites and blog pages, our templates are some of the things that we consider in there is, metadata, on-page elements, how do they play together? What are some of the readability cues? What's the styling and so forth that goes into creating one piece of content? From a social sharing perspective, we look at, what is the hashtag usage for this piece of content? Can we do location tagging? What is the effective usage of imagery, image dimensions? How do we do proper native account tagging, etc., etc.? And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the native user experience and the automation slide. And then email, we got to optimize our emails too and make sure that we consistently create content that is using best practices. So from an email perspective, we want to make sure that we use the proper subject line character count, because we know how important the subject line is in order for people to open that email and do the click through and everything. You have some 2 seconds or whatnot to woo someone with your subject line. What are the best dates and times to send your email out? How do we use images? What are some web-friendly fonts and things like that? So we have structured templates for each content type in each channel that we interact with. They really, like I said, they really allow for consistency and continuity between channels and mediums, and it also helps with your workflowing, your governance. It allows for you to have, if you have a remote team, everyone's going to go check off the same things when they create that piece of content. So it really allows for a unified approach to something that could be scattered throughout the organization. Then we have the content production, content creation and production process. Every organization has so many different processes. Content creation is obviously a process that that you might have. It all depends on, do you have it set in stone? Is it informal? Or do you have an actual workflow flowchart document or so that you can reference? Each task we perform follows some kind of process. The blog creation process that we have, we've chronicled it as a flowchart here, and it really gives us the detail that we need for so many different aspects. It shows obviously it shows the workflow, but it shows who does what. So we have the governance taken care of. We make sure that we have everything taken care of here for each step, which we have about a 12-step process. But each step on that process allow us to be really targeted, and it allows us to really qualify what we're doing and to really find out if there are things that we can do better. See if we can be, if we can optimize or be more efficient. So we know that it should take us, half an hour to write the creative brief, an hour to write the creative brief. It's going to take the writer of that piece of content, anywhere from 2 to 4 hours to do research, and then the writing or the creation part of it should be 4 to 6 hours, depending on what type of content it is. And this is for our blog, so I can, in detail, I can tell you exactly how many hours it should take from inception to shared product for our blog process. And again, this really allows you to, of course, be consistent. It allows you to track what step in your process might have some opportunities. And then another thing that it allows you to do is that you have qualified your whole process here. So once you maybe pitch a blog strategy for your client, you know exactly how many hours it's going to take you to replicate that for your client. So it's easier to estimate as well. Then we talk about content types as well. So we always start at the first step of content types is, what are we creating here? Is it copy? Is it visual content? Is it audio? Is it video? And then we kind of look into more of the elements and attributes and get granular. Well, if it's copy, what type of, is it a blog post? Is it a news release? Is it a press release? Is it an email? Is it a case study? Is it a white paper? So we kind of go deeper and deeper in there, and then the third part of that would be, well, it would be the actual social share of that specific piece of content, that content type. So from a visual perspective, we do the same thing. We look at, is it a graphic? Is it an infographic? Is it a photography and so forth? Audio, is it a podcast? Is it a playlist? Is it music? Is it audio blogging? What is the content type there? And then we look at, from a video perspective, is it a live stream piece of content? Is it a micro video? Is it a long form? Whatever type of content it is, we want to make sure that we chronicle it and that we have a good way to track it. So we track all that once we share it on social channels or emails or throughout our content marketing curation formula. So once we've shared it and once we're doing the analysis afterwards, we know that we have certain content types that perform well, and then once we do our adjustments and everything, we want to just continue to use those content types that do really well for us, and maybe what doesn't do well we'll scale down on. So so that's what we always look into as well. So native user experience versus automation. This is where we see a lot of organizations and brands kind of fail the most. There's so many brands that do an awesome job of creating content for their channels, visual content, engaging content, but they don't take into that technical, the back end, the functional aspect of content creation. So there really is a science to creating and sharing content online, because many times if the content is seen by people or humans, it is determined by an algorithm. It's determined by a set of ranking factors. It's determined by a search bot. So if we don't play by the native rules of that specific platform, you will be penalized in some form. And in social media, being penalized means you get limited reach in most cases. And this, obviously, Facebook would be a great example of that. Facebook, you already have a very limited reach if you're a company page. So if you're using certain native features that you shouldn't be using, then your limited reach will shrink even more. So from a native user experience, we want to make sure that we are really targeted to ensure that we're creating a great user experience for the person that is accessing that piece of content, but we also want to make sure that we play by the rules of that specific channel as well. So just an easy example to talk about is hashtag usage. How many hashtags should we be using? When should we be using hashtags? What channels should we be using hashtags on? And studies show Twitter and Instagram primarily. But if you use hashtags on Facebook, you know, secondary data and the already limited reach that you have as a company page. So that's one of those. That is one of those times where you want to make sure that you adhere by the native features of that specific channel in order to optimize your organic reach, because that's, you want your content to be seen by as many people as you can, of course. And that's where automation plays in, and that's where automation which is more push marketing. You really have to be careful when you consider automation, because it can create, not only can it limit your reach, but it also creates bad user experience when someone starts putting a bunch of hashtags in their post on a channel that's not conducive for hashtag usage. So we always have to take that in consideration. And that's where those checklists and templates really allow you to you know, scale that process, because native user experience can be a lot more, has a lot more human touches to it than the automation process. I'm not saying that automation is a bad thing, because we use automations for some of our content for some of our channels. It has to be really purposeful, and you really have to take into the consideration the audience and the native user experience and user interface of that specific channel. So that's why we always want to emphasize and merge that function versus form, because that's when you're going to get the most reach. So structuring your content and having that that good content creation process, using those templates and so forth, allows you to really scale your content, do it faster, do more content, even though you're not necessarily harnessing just automation and that type of thing. So let's tools. You know, we have so many different tools, and we wish that there was a mega tool out there that could do everything for us. That's just not the case. We've looked, believe me, and we continue to look at different tools. But all tools that we find do one or two things really well, or three things, or four things, whatever it is. But none of the tools out there are going to do whatever it is that you want them to do from a holistic content marketing standpoint. If you look at just from a social media management platform perspective, there are social media management platforms that do a great job of listening and monitoring. Some do a great job with real-time listening and engagement. Some do a good time with collaboration and communication. Some do a good job of sharing and creating those schedules and everything. Some do a good job of reporting and analytics, but there's not a platform out there that does all of it. So there's no real mega tool out there. Just find what works the best for you and your team and your brand, and just kind of do a lot of experimenting, do a lot of testing, do a lot of sign up for a lot of beta lists, and do all that good stuff. We use Gather Content here for a lot of our content creation process. It allows us to really structure content, and allows for us to really help help the writers and empower them to write really good content that is, you know, channel specific and all that good stuff. We use Google Apps. This presentation that you see right now is completely done in Google Slides. Probably not what our director of operations want to hear, but you know, there's definitely usage for Google Apps because they do have a lot of power to them. So there's tons of apps that we use. If you really want to do a deep dive into content marketing tools, I would suggest that you go ahead and follow Kevin Mullet. He's a Fort Wayne native here, a colleague of ours. Follow him on Twitter. He has a tool for pretty much everything. So I think it's at @KMullet, like the hair, I think, or the fish. But just look for Kevin Mullet. 2 T's. KMULLET. So Kevin, he has a tool for everything. So keep a lookout for what he has, because he's gonna, if he doesn't use it, he's definitely tested it. So to recap, content creation is all about creating a messaging framework that allows you to stay on brand, that's scalable and usable and purposeful. The content templates and the checklist allows for consistency in content creation. It's also super empowering for freelancers, remote teams, and unifying your whole content creation team process across the board. Our content production process, that's all about qualifying your content creation process, and again, consistency. I keep saying consistency, because that's what we're all about here. Content types, find out what's working. Sift through those analytics. What content types are working for you? Are your link shares on Facebook doing really well, but not your photo shares? Are your, that kind of stuff. So find out what's working for your organization, for your brand. Do more of it. And then tools. Tools are all about how to scale and enable your content creation to be successful. So. But hit up KMullet for that. He's the content tool master. So what's next? The next content exploration session is May 25th. We always do our live stream on the last Wednesday of the month at noon, and we'll be sharing more in depth of how to harness those native features and when automation is acceptable a little bit more. So we're going to get a little bit more in depth of social sharing and social curation in the next session. We'll also look a little bit about how to optimize your publishing schedule and your frequency and all that good stuff. Content exploration sessions will run through all of 2016. So we're at the Q&A time. So I want to see if there's any questions or anything.
What would you say is like the most up-and-coming tool, or one of the up-and-coming tools that people should check out?
Okay. Tools. What is one of the most up-and-coming tool that people should check out? Okay. Weird question, not a weird question, hard answer, because there's so many different tool sets out there. It just depends on what you're trying to achieve. But what I would say, if you're looking for tools, follow Kevin Mullet. But secondary, follow Product Hunt. Product Hunt is pretty much a beta list on steroids. Anything and everything that is being created from tools. All kinds of different, basically everything that trends hits Product Hunt first, or vice versa. So Product Hunt has a really good pulse on what is new and what's going on in the whole tech sphere. So, any other questions? Okay. Well, we're running out of time, so I'm gonna just keep going here. If you want to go ahead and revisit this live stream, download the Sketchpad, the presentation deck, sign up for our newsletter, read some content marketing resources, and much more, go to our landing page for this specific session. It has a really long URL there, which is really weird, and we need to address that, because that's supposed to be a short URL, but the actual URL is shorter. So go to that, or go to brittonmdg.com/content-creation. So I'll leave that up to you. Thank you very much. Hopefully we'll see you here again on May 25th to talk about content curation. Thanks.